Hey everyone, Selena here, founder, host, lead educator with the American Crochet Association. But I'm also streaming this in quite a few places, including with everybody at the Selena Baca Crochet places. So if you're here live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. This is something that I have not done in a while, but I love doing things like this. It's so much fun. It's just basically a big conversation in an Ask Me Anything style. So earlier this week, I posted a question in one of my communities, and it was just ask me anything about yarn or crochet. Sometimes I got answers, sometimes not. Sometimes it's just experience and feedback and guidance and stuff like that. So that's what we're doing today. I am going to be pulling from questions that were in my community. So I'm just going to be going through those. And I do have some resources that I want to share for each one of them. So that's what we're going to start with. But if you guys have any questions for me about yarn or crochet life or anything like that, go on ahead and post them. And after I go through all of the questions that were already posted, I'm pulling them up now, I'll get through all of the ones that I see in the comments. All right. Okay. So it looks like a few of you guys are here watching, and some of you guys are brave enough to say hey, like Hillary Thompson. So good to see you. Hillary's one of my favorite crocheters. Hillary crochets all the things all the time and has great style. So it's always nice to see Hillary here. Okay, so while I'm pulling up my questions, sorry guys, I thought I already had them up. I posted them in the comments and now they're, okay, all right, I got them now. Okay, so now I'm set up. That's what happens in the live sometime. Amanda Woodbury's here, another one of my favorite crocheters, and Roxanne is here. Hey, so good to see you. All right, so while everybody's kind of coming and thinking about whether or not they're going to be saying hey or hello, I'm going to jump right into the first question. This first question is from Angelica. And Angelica says, how do you choose what yarn to use with the project you have in mind? I love this question so much because it allows me to talk about fiber and stuff like that. And really, fiber is something that took me a really long time to learn. For the longest time, I crocheted things, but really I couldn't tell you what I was using to crochet things. So just that was such a life lesson for me, just understanding what fibers go into the yarn that I'm using and what am I going to do with that particular yarn. So I want to back up that conversation just a little bit, and I do have a resource that I'm going to share. And this resource is called Understanding Yarn Substitution, an Easy Reference for Crocheters. But there's a lot of nuggets and wisdom in here that I think will be really helpful to help you think about how to choose yarn for a project. So really, first and foremost, think about what project you want to make. What is it that you want to make? Are you going to make a bag? Are you going to make a blanket? Are you going to make a pillow? Are you going to make a sweater? So whatever it is that you're going to make, there's going to be a certain stitch pattern for that, right? What stitch pattern do you want to use? Is there a pattern that you already have picked out? Like maybe you saw a picture or something like that and you're like, yes, I want to make that thing. Well, then that kind of answers a lot of the questions for you because you want it to look like that. So you just kind of follow those instructions and, think about, there's could be a little variation in terms of the fiber that you use for it, right? But really it's thinking about what it is that you're going to make and then what fiber is going to, and then what you want to make, what the stitch pattern is, because that really has a lot to do with the fabric that you create, right? So the fabric that you create has a lot to do with the yarn weight. That's the size of the yarn, how big the gauge is, and it has a lot to do with the fiber content. Different fiber contents, they not only look different, but they feel different. So they're going to feel different on your skin. Cotton feels completely different from wool, which feels completely different from acrylic. And they behave differently. So if I want to make if I want to make a tote bag, I have to think about, okay, what kind of tote bag am I going to make? Am I going to make one with a very big open loose stitch fiber or stitch fabric? okay, if I'm going to make a tote bag with a big open stitch fabric, that means that there isn't a lot of fabric in this bag. So the stitches and the yarn that I use really have to take on that extra task of really holding this together. It has to hold weight because I'm putting things in this bag. In contrast, maybe I want to make a sweater and I want that sweater to have big open stitch fabric, but I want it to be really light and fluid and I want it to flow. Well, then the yarn that I use and the fabric that I use, the fiber that I use, it can be a little lighter, a little looser. It doesn't have to be this sturdy, durable kind of thing. So that's, that's kind of the starting place for what yarn do I want to use, because the yarn is going to create fabric and the fabric is going to be the thing. And I feel like this is really just kind of an overview, because that when we dig in here, the secret sauce is you have to know what fiber does. So let's put it in real world context, right? Let's take what we do in the real world and then let's just introduce it into crochet. So for example, you want to buy towels for your bathroom, right? You already in your mind know what you want those towels to do. You want your towels to be, everybody has a difference of opinion. I'm just sharing mine. You want your bathroom towels to be super big, but you don't want it to be heavy. And you want it to be really thick and cushy, but you also want them to be absorbent. So you're looking for all those qualities. So if you buy towels that are you going to buy towels that are 100% wool? Probably not, because the cost and all of that. Are you going to buy towels that are cotton? Yeah, but what kind of cotton? And is it going to be a cotton acrylic blend? Or you just kind of have to look at them and feel them and use them. So using that, what kind of towels you want. Think about what kind of sheets you put on your bed. Think about what you want them to look like, what you want them to feel like. Fiber content is really going to matter. What kind of clothes you buy. Think about materials that are comfortable to you. Think about what they're made of. So we're already kind of thinking about fiber content in terms of, what clothes we buy, what kind of sheets we put on our bed, what kind of blankets we use, what kind of towels we have. So really you can apply all of those questions that you ask yourself about those items in your life, and you can apply that to the projects that you make in crochet. Yeah, so that's kind of the starting point for deciding what yarn am I going to use for what project. So no real specific answers there. But hopefully that and this article that I'm going to share with you, hopefully it gives you enough information for you to go, oh, yarn is made with different fibers, and those different fibers are going to be better suited for certain things, and certain things are really not going to be well suited for. Like, for example, are you going to use a hand spun silk yarn, to make kitchen scrubbies with? You might, but you probably shouldn't. It's probably not going to do well, right? So we think about fiber in that context for other things that we get. So hopefully it makes sense for the projects that we make. All right, so let's see who else is here and what you guys are saying. It looks like my friend Elaine is here. Margaret is here. Dawn Tennyson is here. So good to see you. Ooh, I love this. There are some questions here, so I'm going to get back to them. Amanda's got a great question. Dawn Harrison says, how often do y'all go live on here? It's just kind of willy-nilly. That's my schedule right now. There's so many things that I do in the background just to put together the courses at the American Crochet Association. I write patterns for Selena Baca Crochet. So, I try to do things like this as much as possible, but right now schedule is literally willy-nilly. So just subscribe to this page or this video and you'll get notifications every time I go live. Hello, Tammy Peters. So good to see you. All right. Oh, hello, Angela. So good to see you. I'm doing well. Thank you. Hope you are too. And Sophie is here. Good to see you, Sophie. Okay, so that was question number 1. Great question from Angelica. Again, I know that I gave this general, broad overview, but I think that it's a great question. How do you choose what yarn to use for the project you have in mind? I mean, those are the things that I think about. And then it's really just distilling down from there. What is it that I want to make? What fabric am I trying to create? How do I want that to look? How do I want it to feel? And then what yarn, fiber, and weight do I think is going to work well for that? So those are always the stepping stones. Okay, the next question is from Marcia. And Marcia says, how do you publish your patterns? I write patterns as well. So that is a fantastic question. And I'm going to just share what I do, how I do it, and I definitely have some resources for you. So I'm going to be sharing that with you, okay? So let me just start from the top down. How do I publish my patterns? So I'm just going to answer that as basically as you've asked, and I'm going to expand on that just a little bit. So how do I publish my patterns? Well, the patterns that I write, I do a few different things with them. So I do write book publications for my publisher. So I do work with my publisher to compile that content, and then they do the publishing. So that's definitely one way I publish patterns. So whenever I'm writing patterns individually for publication, I love using two different sources, and really this is kind of where I stay. Even though there's lots of ways there are lots of places and spaces you can sell individual crochet patterns. I love Etsy and I love Ravelry, and I've been selling on both of those patterns for over 10 years now, for a really long time. So whenever I do have an individual pattern to publish, those are the places that I put them. And each one of those platforms have a different process in terms of setting up a store, establishing your store, everything that means. And then, what it means to upload a pattern listing that you can start selling. So there's a completely different process for each one of those, but I think in general, those platforms are relatively user-friendly, and if you don't have a storefront on either one of them, I think that starting that process in either one of those platforms, it seems to be pretty user-friendly. And if you have any questions or need support, there's a pretty big community around those platforms, people who have experience with them that can help you along the way. But I wanted to answer that question just a few layers under, just because I enjoy writing and publishing patterns. I also have some workshops on what that process looks like. So if you're interested in what it means to write and publish a pattern, if you're interested in understanding what that business model is, and also understanding what that creative process looks like, I have put that together in some workshops that you can find at the American Crochet Association. But I want to back up just for a minute, because there are lots of things that absolutely should go into every pattern that you want to publish. So it doesn't matter where you publish this pattern. It doesn't matter whether you're like, well, I just want to write it, for free and just, put it wherever I'm going to put it. I'm not even going to charge. If you are going to share instructions with a public audience, then it is my opinion that you do your best work to make sure that you're following universal standards, terms, guidelines, and that you're writing for a universal audience that will read and follow and execute your instructions so that they don't have any questions. I mean, that's really the ultimate goal. If you're just writing for yourself, that's completely different. You're not publishing for an audience. But again, it doesn't matter if it's free or paid or whatever you're doing. If you are publishing it for other people to follow, I definitely lead with, you have a responsibility to publish in a very particular way. And all of these standards and guidelines and things like that, it doesn't take away from your creative ability. You can create whatever your mind can imagine, and hopefully you can imagine new and different things and ways of doing things, and maybe even new techniques. However, the crochet world, the yarn world, does have enough standards that you can utilize that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent a creative writing process. That hard work has already been done for you. So really, no matter how complex your work is, following those universal standards and guidelines and all of that will just help whatever you have, whatever you've created, reach that universal audience in a way to where they can read and follow and understand and not have any questions. So I do have if, whether or not you're already publishing, whether or not you're interested in publishing your crochet pattern work, I'm going to share some resources with you guys. The first one is a 14-point checklist before you publish a pattern. At the very least, hopefully these are just things that you can do so that you have a process. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. It's just some really great resources to help you through that. And again, guys, I already have a pattern writing training program. So if you do want to write your own unique crochet patterns using universal terms, standards, guidelines, and templates, I got you. I got a whole workshop. It also helps with the creative process. So maybe you have one great pattern idea and you are just ready to put that pen to paper. But maybe you want to turn this into a business and you're not really sure what it looks like from start to finish. I do have some information for you that will help. So, all right, that was question number 2 was it from Marcia? Marcia, that was a great question. Thank you so much. And let me see who else is here and what you guys are saying. Any questions, any shout outs before we move on? Oh man. All right. Well, I see you guys are here and you're watching and there aren't any questions or hellos. So I guess that means we're ready to just keep on trucking, right? If you don't want to say hello, that's fine, but maybe give me a heart or a thumbs up or something like that. Let me know you can hear me and you can see me and all that good stuff. I'd really love that. And again, any questions that you guys have, anything you have about yarn or crochet, I'm going to answer those as soon as I get through the questions that were already posted. And I have 4 of them. So I've gone through 2. The next question 3 of 4. Okay, before I get to it, I'm just going to Amanda says, I love the pattern writing course. Of course you do, because you were one of our best students. Thank you, Amanda. All right, question 3 of 4 is from Tammy. Tammy says, how many whips do you currently have, and how do you know if you have too many? I have 1, but I'm afraid if I start another, I'll forget about it, lose interest in it, insist that my dog ate it, and I couldn't finish it. This is kind of, I don't really have a one size fits all, but I'd be happy to share some feedback and some advice with you. And I was trying to pull the perfect resources for this. And I'm going to share what I think will work best. First, how many whips do I currently have? I have too many to count. Actually, it looks a little chaotic right now. I have right now 5, 6, 7, 8 just on my desk. I have 8 whips, 9 whips. That's just on my desk. 9, 10, 11, 12. That's just right here that I currently have. Okay. So I might be a little different than other people who crochet, and that what I do with crochet is I invent new ways of crocheting things. I invent new patterns, new projects. So in my defense, for having so many whips, sometimes I'll get inspired because there's a yarn, or I get inspired because I'm like, it's tote bag season. I need to make a tote bag. That's what I'm currently doing. I was inspired to make a tote bag, and I've got 3 samples on my desk. 1, 2, 3, 4 samples on my desk of this one tote bag. So I'm just kind of having fun with all these different whips. Some of them are finished, some of them aren't. Some of them I started and I was like, I don't like the way I did this part. I'm going to take it out and try it again. So I have this process for creating these new things that I want. So in my defense, I got quite a few whips, right? But in general, what I like to do is start a project and finish it. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if I'm working on a sweater or an Afghan. I mean, it doesn't even matter how big that Afghan is. I want to start and finish a project. I don't like to have multiple projects going on at one time. But in all honesty, sometimes I'll start something like this tote bag that I'm working on right now, and it's like, ooh, I know what I want to make, and I sketch something out, and I know what yarn that I want to use, and I start to make it, and I get halfway through, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't doing what I want it to do. Let me start again and make this tweak. So here's sample 1, and then I start sample 2, and I start to finish, and it's like, it's not, do I want to make changes? Should it be a different size? Is it too big? Is it too small? Let me make a third sample. And I make that third sample and I go, okay, now I've got 3 samples to look at. What did I like? What didn't I like? Let me start the 4th sample. So that's kind of why I have so many different whips for that one particular project. But again, yeah, I'm in the middle of a creative process for something. So there's a few piles for the same project. I like to start and stop I like to start and finish projects. So if you have a lot of projects, or you're in the middle of something and you're thinking about starting something else, I guess this is where I'm going to share this resource with you. And it's about, really the article that I'm referencing is what to do if you've lost your mojo. What do you do if you've lost your crochet motivation? And one of my tips is, if you don't know what to crochet next, or if you feel kind of stuck, go through your whip pile. Now, if you are working on a project, or if you have multiple projects and they're just kind of hanging out and you're not going back to them, that's kind of where this comes in. And I think this answers the question of, should I start another project if I'm currently working on? How many whips are too many whips? What do I do with whips that I don't go back to? That's where this answers that question. So yes, I have tons of whips. And I have whips because sometimes there's a project that I started and I got bored and it just went away and I'm not interested in going back to it. Sometimes I have a whip because there's something about it that I got stuck on. Like maybe I don't like the yarn that I use. Maybe I don't like the color. Maybe the yarn that I used is too small or too big or too thick. It's just, the fabric isn't coming together in some way. Or just kind of like, I got bored with it. I found something else that was more exciting. That happens to me too. And I just put my whip off to the side. So I think these are great questions to ask yourself if you're working on a project. If you're bored or stuck, or if you just keep finding other things that you'd rather work on, then maybe whatever project you're working on, is it something that you want to finish? Maybe you just frog it and go, that was fun, but I don't want it to be anything. I'm not interested. So I guess really think about what that whip is and whether or not you want to finish it, because sometimes things are really big. I've seen people work on Graphgans with 27 different colors of single crochet, and it's going to be like a year-long project. And it's like, that's just a year-long project. And if maybe you work on other things in between, I think that's acceptable. Or I shouldn't even say I think that's acceptable. I think what I'm trying to say is, I don't think you need permission from anyone else. I think that some people have 2 whips and that's too many. Some people just work on one thing at a time. Some people have, I don't know, dozens of whips around. And I think as long as you're constantly aware of them in some meaningful way, like keep a whip note card with all of your projects, like here's my note card for this project, here's my note card for this project, here's my note card for this project. As long as you're keeping them, you're differentiating them. Maybe you go back to them and finish them. Maybe you go back to them and alter them so that you want to finish them. Or maybe you go back to them and go, you're getting frogged. So hopefully that helps. And I'm going to share this here with you guys. And that way you can go back and read this one point about whips, because I think that there's some nuggets in there that will help. But really the article is Get Your Crojo Back. So maybe there'll be some nuggets of wisdom in there as well. All right, I see quite a few of you guys are here. Let's see. Tammy says, I'm making a perfect poncho right now. I know that pattern. You better share some pictures. I want to see that. Tammy has been in the crochet world for years. I feel like we're friends, even though we've never met in person. But Tammy is one of my favorite crocheters, and Tammy is one of my favorite crochet models too. Tammy has the best hair. Tammy has the best style. I just love Tammy. So hopefully Tammy will share some stuff with us so we can see, so everyone can see what I'm talking about. Hello, Diana from Dallas, Georgia. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you guys can hear me. I had so much trouble with this last week. For some reason, my sound was weird, so I don't know. Diana, I'm heading to your neck of the woods. I have family that live in Georgia, and I'm heading there for a Georgia vacation soon. So I'll wave to you from the airplane. Hillary says the video keeps freezing for me. I guess my kids are clogging up the internet. I know that typically happens. Hopefully it's not on my end. Hopefully the replay is fantastic and hopefully most people can see and hear. Amanda says I'm starting a new tote design today too. Good luck. Congratulations. Amanda says, ugh, I have so many whips to frog. I know I am not going to finish them. Yeah, I think that it's entirely up to you. What you keep, what you work on, what you frog, it's entirely up to you. And hopefully the tips that I share just kind of help you determine and not feel guilt over whether or not you have whips. It's fine to have whips. You know, I'm giving you permission, okay? But if you're just looking for maybe some guidance, what do other people do? What should I do? Let me have, you know, maybe a better system for whether or not I adopt another project. Again, hopefully these tips help. Hillary, what prompted you to design so many new Christmas stockings and when will the next set of patterns be available? I'm so excited for all of them. So that, all of those Christmas stockings, of course, every year, of course, like you guys know me. But some of you guys may have been with me, you know, for a while to know this. I have, published a Christmas stocking pattern every year since 2012, 2013. So like for the last 10 years. I remember 10 years ago, I was like, man, what am I going to crochet next? And I was just so inspired to crochet a Christmas stocking. Still one of my favorite things that I've ever made. I really loved it. I love decorating with crochet. And so it's something that I love doing every year. So last year and every year I've just published one new stocking pattern for like the last 10 years. But last year, I happened to have an abundance of ideas. I had too many ideas for Christmas stockings. And so I can't tell you too much about what I'm doing. But yeah, I am working on something larger. And what you guys have seen so far, especially in my Selena Baca Crochet group, there was some pattern testing there. On my Selena Baca Crochet Ravelry page, you guys can see some stuff there. So I'm sharing some things for something else. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But yeah, ultimately, I was just really inspired. I had a ton of ideas. I wasn't really sure which one I was going to make. And so I was like, well, I think I'm going to make them all. Let's just do it. So that's kind of where that came from. So thanks, Hillary. I really appreciate you. Oh, let's see. Stephanie is here. Hello to you. Brenda Allison, my friend. So good to see you. Good afternoon. I try not to have too many whips at a given time. I think it is personal choice. Yeah, we are friends, aren't we, Tammy? That's how I feel. Oh, love you too, Tammy. So good to see you. Oh my gosh. Hold on, guys. Whew. Sorry. Is everybody still here? Yes, everybody's still here. Everybody can still hear me. There. I got a phone call and apparently my desktop picked it up. So that's a fun problem. All right. Sorry about that, guys. That's what happens on the live sometimes. It's fun that way. Elaine, I wish I had better places to take pictures. Same. Actually, taking pictures is something that I've been trying to get better at for how long have I been doing this professionally? 10, 12 years, 14 years. So it's something that it doesn't come easy for me. And I feel like I'm learning some tips to kind of do a better job. So Stephanie, I'm working on a baby lovey security blanket right now and an amigurumi spider and wall decor. Brenda says, yeep, it's freezing for me also every now and then. Oh, not the weather. The weather isn't freezing for you. Hopefully it'll be better. Sorry. Hillary, I love making stockings. We don't even use them all, but I still keep making them. Same. So in my house, we've had the same fabric stockings forever, for like 20 years. But and so every now and then, we'll kind of break out the crochet Christmas stockings. But this last year, I made and we used quite a few of them. So I was really happy about that. Tammy says, I'll start the bag tester after the poncho. Love it. Elaine, whoops, my phone was listening to what I was saying. My phone does that too. Tammy says outside is always the best place for pictures. Sometimes, but even then, it's like it has to be in the shade in a certain time of day and a certain background and blah, 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 blah. And so it's, yeah, it's a thing. All right, guys. So that is question 3 of 4. Let me get to the next one. The last question that I have, and these were the questions that you guys previously asked. So these are the ones I'm getting to first. But of course, I did see some questions in the comments after I answer all 4 of these questions that were previously asked that I have information for. The floor is open. Any questions that you guys have for me about yarn or crochet, go ahead and post them and I'll answer them as long as I'm here live. So the next question is from Amy, and Amy says, when is the next crochet along? I'm so glad you asked, Amy. So we just, for anyone who doesn't know, we just finished a crochet along where we all made, it's right here. It's right here. Here we go. We all made this granny square market tote. So much fun. I'm going to post more information on that in the comments in just a minute. So that was the last crochet along that we just did. And before that, earlier this year, we all made a cardigan together. And that was super fun. So, I'm trying to get a new, fun, easy process for hosting crochet alongs so that more people can participate and I can just kind of make them a better experience for everyone. So that's what I'm kind of doing behind the scenes a little bit. But also, I would love to hear what you guys want to make, because ultimately, I think it's up to you guys. Sometimes you guys pick patterns that were already published, like this one right here. This is one that I made last year or the year before, and you guys were like, we want to make it now. That's going to be the crochet along. Same thing with the cardigan. Not a brand new pattern, but one that lots of people said, I love this pattern. I've been wanting to make it, but let's host a crochet along, and that'll give me the motivation to kind of get through it. So you guys tell me in the comments, please, what would you guys like to make? Do you guys want to make an Afghan? Do you guys want a skill builder? Do you want stash busters? Do you want to gifts? Do you want to make a hat? Do you want to make bags? What is it that you're excited to make right now? Or is there something that you're excited to learn? Is there some kind of challenge that, you're looking for, something that you've always wanted to learn or do or make, and you just kind of need that, maybe that group setting, that crochet along setting to where you actually make it. Let me know in the comments and I'll go back and I'll kind of tally it up and see what we kind of come up with, and then we can start planning our next crochet along. But until then, I want you guys to know that I have posted some of my crochet alongs at the American Crochet Association in the membership area. So if you guys don't know about the crochet membership, I'm going to post the link here in the video description. If you're in and you know, you know. So the crochet membership is not just a library of information. It just kind of fills in all of your learning gaps. It's a great skill builder and things like that. Again, when you look at the page, you'll see all that stuff. You're going to get a bunch of challenges. So if you're just looking to start a challenge right now today, and you want it to be in a fun setting, and you want patterns, and you want to learn things, I've got the Tunisian crochet challenge. So there's video tutorials. There's information about different kinds of Tunisian crochet hooks, because there's a lot, and different Tunisian crochet hooks make different projects. So there's everything you need to know to get started with Tunisian crochet, video tutorials to make stitches. There's patterns in there for you guys to follow and learn how to Tunisian crochet. There's the Artisan Afghan Challenge. It's 10 different stitch patterns, how to join different pieces together, and a border. Tons of great stuff in there. I'm calling it a mystery crochet along still, because if you haven't gone through this, then it is a mystery to you. So this is a mystery. This was a crochet bag pattern we made a couple years ago. It's a backpack, a crochet backpack. So much fun. Honestly, fantastic. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet, because that's a lot of fun. This is the scarfy cardigan that I was talking about earlier this year. So I've got that entire crochet along right here for you guys to go through. Whether or not you've ever made a cardigan before, you will learn so many different things about this process. You'll learn what yarn I chose. You'll learn how to choose yarn. You'll learn how to make a gauge swatch. And then you'll learn, just everything you need to know about how to measure your body, what style and fit you're going for, and then creating a cardigan that is a style and fit that you love. So tons of crochet alongs in the membership right now. You guys can get all access to them when you join, and there is a link in the video for you guys to learn more. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep this up in the background for right now. And that was my last question from, let's see, feedback to, oh, come on. Okay, feedback to Amy. Amy did ask, when is the next crochet along? So don't have an answer on that, but there's some things that you guys can pick up right now if you're interested. I'd love feedback on what you guys want to make. And yeah, I'll probably put a poll out in the very near future. I always ask you guys to pick what our next crochet along is. So stay tuned for that. Oh, Sheila says, I love garments. Diana says, I still would like to make a summer top or a skirt. Ooh, I'm always down for those. I hear you. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start going through and answering questions that have already been posted in the comments, and I'm just going in the order that I see them. So the first one is from Amanda Woodbury. Amanda says, how do you choose colors when you buy yarn? I don't feel like I'm a fair person to ask this because, and I was just having this very conversation, with a friend of mine. I don't feel that I'm very good at choosing colors. I really don't. I feel like I love all the colors. So sometimes I just see color and I'm like, oh, I love this and I love that and I love that and I love that. And I don't really feel that I'm the best person at putting colors together. And for that reason, sometimes I get a little intimidated by color, and maybe if I'm making a bigger project, I choose a variegated yarn. Or, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what to choose. I'm just going to choose a solid color yarn. So sometimes, I'll do that. I think it's just whatever I'm feeling at the moment. So it's like a gut thing. But for the most part, most of my designs that you guys see, I go with very neutral. A lot of the times I just use like very neutral, very monotone colors. And the reason I like to do that is because sometimes I think that it's the yarn that I want you guys to see. Look how cool this yarn is. If you want this project with this yarn, like that's kind of what I'm highlighting here, right? And sometimes I just want my project to be a little bit like a blank canvas. And that way when you see it, you go, oh man, I love that. I can totally see myself making that in this color or colors that I like. So I feel like I do a little bit of both. So that's kind of a non-answer, Amanda. My process is a little bit all over the place. But I will say that I get a lot of inspiration just by what's available in the market. So sometimes there's a yarn that I love for a project. Like for example, I'm making bags right now. I love using Lion Brand 24/7 cotton for bags. That's probably one of my go-to yarns. So the colors I choose are based on what's available. So kind of a non-answer, but a great question. And I even wish I had a better process for choosing colors, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. So that's where it is. Okay, let's see what other questions are posted here. Let's see if anybody else has said hey or hello. Man, there are a lot of comments here that I'm scrolling through. Another hey to Stephanie Lynn. I don't know if I said hey to you before. All right, let's see. Yep, Stephanie's letting us know what she's working on. Okay. Diana. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry that the screen made you so big. Diana says, sorry, there we go. I am working in my Stitch Mastery certification, which I'm dying to be done with so I can start with pattern writing. I'm having trouble with the Solomon's knot, reading the pattern. What should I do? So if you're taking the Stitch Mastery course with the American Crochet Association, we have a video for every single stitch. So if you're having issues with the written instructions, especially since that's such a specialty stitch, right? So it's very different from how we crochet. It requires like a different technique. So definitely watch the video along with that so that you can get the hang of it. I think maybe just watching it a few times before you pick up yarn and hook, I think that that could help. Just kind of watching it and watching it with the written instructions that are provided. Sometimes when I'm really stuck in how to do something, how to execute something, whether it's like a different stitch or a different technique, I find that watching a video and following the written instructions kind of help me. And do that from start to finish more than once until you feel familiar with it. And that way, when you start picking up your yarn and hook, you know, and you read the instructions and you follow the video, you already have a few mental references for what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to do. And that way you're not trying to catch up, right? So that's typically what I do, and that's helpful. But let us know what you think, Diana. If there's something that's working better for you, or if there's a different resource that you think would help you with that, let us know. I'd love to hear. Dawn says, loved the cardigan, made too. I loved seeing your projects. That was so awesome that you were able to follow along. So thank you. I really loved that. Amanda says, still want to make a summer top. Quite a few of you guys are saying you want to make a summer top. Maybe if everybody wants to make a summer top, maybe that's what we do. Amanda, what do you do with all your finished projects? Oh my gosh, this is something I'm a little embarrassed about this, honestly. I honestly am. So most of my finished projects, I don't want anyone to touch them, and they're perfect and beautiful and lovely, and I just put them away in plastic bins. That's what happens to a lot of my projects. It's like I put so much time and effort and energy into them, and I just can't bear to have them used. That sounds terrible, I know. There are some things that I make. There are certain, like, there's sweaters or wraps, or like there was a skirt that I made a couple of years ago that I wore all the time. So some things I'm totally comfortable with, like, using and wearing. If it can just be like this bag. This bag is a great example. I've used it twice, and then I was like, it's so beautiful, I'm just going to hang it on my wall. So I often just kind of display or make a lot of my things keepsake. I do give things away, but I only give things away to people who ask for them. I'd really like to get into the habit of selling my finished samples, but that's just kind of like a whole other job, and so I haven't done that. So yeah, a lot of the things that I make are just kind of like museum quality, put away, don't touch it. And that's kind of what I do. So, but I will say at least once a year, I do have a, ready to ship sale, but again, that just is so much work. So I'm thinking about doing like a, front porch trunk show de-stash in my local area. So if you're in my local area, that might be what I do next. We'll see. We'll see. Sophie likes bags. Sophie is interested in making bags. Sheila wants to make garments. Diana says, I would love to make a summer top or skirt. Tammy, do you think there's a way to convert cardigan patterns where you sew the sleeves on to join as you go instead? I hate sewing sleeves on. Yeah, absolutely. And Tammy, as a matter of fact, that's something that I talked extensively about in this Scarfy Cardigan Crochet Along Challenge. One thing that I love about Crochet Along Challenges is that I love taking elements of a design and telling you what you could do differently. And this is also something that I did in my granny square bag, because in that bag pattern, I did join as you go. But then I talked extensively about, hey, that's not the only join process. So same thing with like a cardigan like this. It's made in different pieces, and then I typically like to sew things together. So I do have some resources. I put together 9 different ways crochet can be joined together, whether you sew them or crochet the pieces together. There's 9 different ways to do that. So I will share those resources in the video description. But yeah, I think that there are, sometimes we take projects or sometimes I make, let me say this. When I wrote this pattern, this Scarfy cardigan, I was writing with a very specific goal in mind. I wanted this particular pattern to be something that I don't want you to think of a sweater as something big and clunky and bulky that like when, you know, you start it and then, you know, it's before you know it, it's like this thing that you have to carry with you. It's not so portable and it just kind of gets big and, you know, kind of daunting. So I wanted to design this cardigan to where it was in entirely different pieces that you join together when you're done. That way each piece is more portable and it's more adjustable. You can kind of adjust things based on, you know, the size and the fit that you're looking for. So when you have a bunch of pieces and you need to join them together, this is where I thought about all the different ways this could be joined. And I went with the way that I thought was quickest, easiest, beginner friendly, and could be adjustable. I also wanted to use sewing as a method for this, and I like sewing as a method. It's probably one of my least favorite ways to join just because in the beginning it's like, get 6 feet of yarn, and it's like, you know, the first few stitches you're just kind of pulling yarn. You insert hook and then you're pulling yarn. So that's a little tedious. But what I like about sewing, especially for garments, is that it creates this very flexible hinge that just melts into the fabric and it doesn't leave a big bulky seam. And when you double up your yarn, then you've got 2 yarn ends in the beginning and the end. So it really creates a lot of durability while you still have a lot of flexibility. And then you've got those 2 yarn ends that you can knot together and then sew into the fabric. So it's super sturdy. Sometimes people will just have one strand of yarn that they'll sew and they're like, I don't know if this is really durable enough. And yes, some yarns might not be durable enough for that single strand of yarn. So it's a better idea to double over that yarn. But you're right. If maybe you want a different, if you want to create a different join, there are lots of different joins. You can crochet things together and there's lots of different, so many, I mean, think about all the stitches there are. You could do slip stitch seams. You could use slip stitch and some chains. You can just slip stitch the seam. So whatever method you want to adopt, think about what that seam is going to look like. Think about what it's going to do. Is it going to create extra fabric? Is it going to create extra bulk? Is there still going to be any kind of movement? Do I want there to be movement? So you really have to think about all those elements. And that way, whatever item you have, you're creating, you're putting it together in a way that is beautiful and functional and durable. So hopefully that helps. So short answer long, do you think there's a way to convert cardigan patterns where you sew the sleeves on to join as you go instead? I hate sewing sleeves on. Yeah. And I'll share those resources with you. Sometimes when I'm having trouble choosing colors, I'll take a look at self-striping yarn and draw inspiration from their color combinations. Hillary, that's brilliant. And I have literally never thought of that before. Huh. You blew my mind a little bit there. I really like that. So what I'm hearing, and let's use this as an example. Let's use these 2 are self-striping yarns right here. So maybe I can look at this and go, ooh, well, this has like a jewel tones, a teal blue, and then a light purple, and then a dark purple, and then like this pearl, and then this kind of gray. Let me use those colors together. Is that what you're saying? That's brilliant. Oh my gosh, Hillary. All right, Hillary's in charge of everything now. Hillary's just brilliant. That's amazing. And same thing with this cardigan. Like you're seeing all these different colors. There's grays and blues and golds and garnets and things like that. So just kind of taking apart some of those colors and putting them together. You win, Hillary. That's really good. I like that. Okay, Tammy brings up a great point, and this is something that I do as well, honestly. And I forgot to mention this. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Tammy says, I will Google color palettes to help me pick color combos. I will do this. I'll go to Pinterest and I'll look up color palettes and I'll find some that I like. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes it works in that I see something that inspires me, like, oh man, those 4 colors, great, love that. Yes, that's what I want. And then I cannot find those colors in the yarn world. Or I find some of those colors in the yarn world in some lines, but not in others. So I like that, but it's not always something that I can replicate. And so that's where it gets a little sticky. So that is a great tip, Tammy. And I do that, but it doesn't always work for me. But that's fantastic. Elaine, watching videos and reading the instructions while I worked along is exactly how I taught myself to crochet. Yeah, that's what I need to do. Sometimes if I don't understand things, I need to read it, I need to watch it, and I need to do that at least 3 times. And then I'm like, okay, I think I'll follow along, but we're going to take it slow and I'm going to read and I'm going to watch. So that works for me too. Elaine also wants to make a summer top. Dawn says summer top would be a fun crochet along. Elaine, I've been waiting for another sample sale. I bought so many last year. I just need help putting it together. There just aren't enough hours in the day. So I'll keep you posted on that. Something I'd love to do. Maybe I'll fly Elaine out here and she'll help me put it together. Tammy, I never get the sleeves sewn on to my satisfaction. Yeah, I had to try a few different things, Tammy. Like, for example, doubling up my yarn. I found that to be really satisfying. I really liked that. There are a few different ways that I like to crochet pieces together. I don't like a slip stitch seam all the time. Sometimes I do, but I have to use a bigger hook and I have to be really loose. And then I only have to use the center loops instead of both loops to kind of minimize bulk. So I think that it really just depends on what yarn you're using. It depends on what it is that you're making. It depends on where that seam or join is going to be. And I think that whenever we have lots of different methods to try, I think that maybe we'll find some that we like. Michelle J, the crocheting dog mom. Love that, by the way. That's fantastic. I do that with the colors as well. Everyone's clapping for Hillary. Thank you, Hillary. You had great ideas. Elaine says she definitely will. Elaine, okay, that'll be great. All right, guys. I don't see any other questions, comments, feedbacks. That's it. That's all I saw. This was so much fun. I love doing these so much. Anytime you guys have any crochet questions, you guys can always reach out. If I don't have an answer, then we'll poll the community. We'll get an answer. We'll get feedback. We'll get resources. We'll get support. I love having crochet questions, and I really love sharing what has worked well for me, or things that I really love, or things I really enjoy, or things that I just have done terribly wrong. So these conversations are really fun to have, and I'm so glad that you guys joined me on this. If you enjoyed this too, do me a solid, share this video in just one place you enjoy crochet if you think they will enjoy it too. Tag a crochet friend in the comments, and also keep me posted. What do you think our next crochet along should be? I'd love to hear. All right, everybody, until next time, peace, love, crochet. Bye-bye.